This is gonna sound odd, but I just got an email notification that my album Sunday Beats is now on Napster, and I was like, Napster's still a thing?
Nice. How
Does that
much
mean
money do you get for that?
or I don't probably nothing considering it's on Napster. Yeah.
Napster, $9.99 a month.
So it's like Spotify, but worse.
All you can play.
I mean, I shouldn't say that. They're hosting my album. Napster's a well, they're not a sponsor. I can say whatever the hell I want. I don't know anything about Napster though, so all right,
All
you good?
right. Yeah, I think so.
All right. In five, four, three, two. Welcome to a heartfelt episode of Speak Freely. I am, of course, as always, your host, Mr. Freely, along with Mr. Speak, aka Kuno Stars. How are you, my dude?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good too, man. It's been a rainy, cloudy, cold day in Houston, surprisingly, below 40. Can you believe that?
Oh,
That
wow.
is that is and yesterday was like 70s, high 60s. So that's Texas weather for you. So, but it's been a good day. It's been a good day. How about your day?
Good. Um, Pretty good. It's also a little bit cold today here in California.
Nice.
Not below 40. It's more like 50s, low 60s. That's pretty cold for me.
That's it's California. You guys in your perfect weather. How dare you complain about? Oh my god, 60s. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, I wore 3 layers today.
I had to wear a whole jacket. Can you believe it? No, but yeah. I mean, I
Got some North
remember.
Face on. Yeah.
There's something to be said about how like you do get used to the weather where you're at. So when it deviates a little too much from one side or the other, it does mess with you, right?
Oh yeah. When it's
Like
like in the 90s, I'm like, oh god, it's so hot. When it's like in
yeah,
the 50s, I'm like, oh god, it's so cold.
yeah. I'm sure like there's people in like Chicago or New York are like, you call that cold? You bunch of weak people. But it's like I'm used to it being like 90s, hundreds, 80s with like 90% humidity here. So when it drops to like a 40 and it's like a dry cold, like it stings differently here. You know what I mean? Whereas like
That's
when
like
when
a good 50 degrees difference.
yeah, easily. Whereas like I remember too every time I visit California and it's like 70s, everyone's like in their shorts and shirt and they're like, "Oh man, this is nice." And I'm like, "Guys, it's cold. I need a sweater." And they're like, "You weak Texas boy. Boy." But
And then a guy from Chicago comes shirtless, like, weak California sissies,
yeah, the guy
you
from
know?
Chicago's like sweating like, "God, is it always hot
Yeah.
like this?" But yeah, welcome to today's new episode. Before we get to today's topic, we are starting out with our brand new segment, tentatively titled "News That Matters to Us This Week." And in today's news that matters to me, because I'll go first.
Oh.
I'll go first. Me, I claim it. I am. I am the captain now. But in today's news, I did want to start this off legitimately with we lost a huge legend in the jazz world today. Chick Corea passed away today from a rare form of cancer. That's what the news article says. He was 79 years old. For those of you who don't know, Chick Corea was very prominent in the jazz world. He was a great pianist, a great composer. He made brilliant albums like Spain and I pick out Spain 'cause that's my favorite album of his. But he did a lot of like stuff, dude. He did like weird fusion stuff where he like it was jazz and it was like Latin music and it was like fusion stuff, and he was a beast on piano, man. He composed some brilliant stuff. I mean, my favorite tunes from him, obviously, Spain is a big one. I really love Armando's Ramba, 5,000 Miles High. Just a legend, an absolute legend. 79 years old. And yeah, I just want to start off with that because me having somewhat of a jazz background, that was
You're being pretty modest there.
that kind of sucks because it's like there's still, thankfully the art still lives and there's still people playing it and there's some prominent jazz musicians today, but he was a legend, man. He had 50 years in the industry, like, and many would argue he renovated it, pushed it forward to higher heights, as it were. So he would be missed. He will be missed. All the music we won't get to hear, but luckily all the music he left behind. He left such a catalog of stuff. So I want to start out with that because I think that's the most important news to me.
No,
this week.
I've never heard of Chick Corea. I know you mentioned piano. Is he mainly a pianist?
He was mainly a pianist, yes, mainly a pianist, but he composed a lot of like jazz tunes and stuff. So if you just look up his category on Spotify or wherever you are, Chick Corea, with a C, Corea, and then the word chick, exactly what you think, Chick Corea.
You ever seen Chick Corea play live?
I wish. No, I never had the chance, and no, I never will. But
that's a little sad.
But he has a lot of live concerts though, so I mean, yeah, it sucks, but at least we had him. You know what I mean? At least he got to do what he loved, and he not only that, he got to do what he loved, and he got to like change the genre of jazz and show people like we can extend it to this, we can do this to it, we can do that to it, different things, different forms and stuff like that. And he wrote what are considered jazz standards now, like jazz bands and jazz musicians worth their salt like no Chick Corea tunes, specifically the three that I mentioned. Like those are jazz standards. So he will be missed. Rest in power. Rest in peace. So.
Yes, you being of a jazz student, right? How much of his work do you think influences yours?
Oh my God, a lot. Especially the Latin feel to it. Even though he was a pianist, the thing that I loved about him, especially in Spain, he incorporated. I always forget the name of the classical piece, so if anyone in the comment section wants to correct me, but particularly in Spain, he opens up with like a what's typically a classical guitar piece, but he opens it up on piano. It's the second movement of something. I always forget the freaking name of it, but it's the second movement of this piece. And just knowing how like he translated that from guitar, and the way he moves around the chords and improvises, his velocity, but his melodic writing at the same time. Like I love playing his tunes. I especially love like playing Armando's Rumba. I'm severely out of practice on that tune because they're fast tunes too. They're like no joke. Like you have to have great dexterity as a musician to play those. But man, when you play those songs and when they hit, holy hell, do they hit? They're so much fun. They're so much fun. So he was a big influence on me for sure. I always say the biggest influence on me was Wes Montgomery. Like that's my guy. That's like.
That's like your thesis statement.
Yeah,
like on Wes Montgomery.
That was literally my master's recital was on Wes Montgomery. So I love Wes so much. But Chick Corea, along with like the other big names too, like they were a huge influence on me too. So
yeah, I'm sure like Wes Montgomery, you being like more of a like jazz guitarist, is gonna have a lot more influence. But as a composer, right? Like you said, Chick Corea, like he composes music, like whole like scores of like music.
Yeah,
I'm sure that has
hundreds upon hundreds of tunes, tens of albums, a bunch of live concerts he did, the fusion stuff he did, the Latin fusion stuff he did. And it's not even like and this isn't to disparage it, right? But like Armando's Rumba, like it's a very like it's a rumba. right? For anyone who knows, like a rumba is like a Latin type of genre. But the way he plays it and the way he adds the jazz elements to it, and it's a banger. It slaps so hard, that tune. Like, it's not to say that no one else did it before him. Obviously, it could be argued that like Dizzy Gillespie and like those guys around that era kind of brought Latin feel into jazz. But like, I always feel like Chick Corea kind of took that and like amplified it, like turned it up to 11. You know what I mean? So it's like when you compare like the tunes of like Night in Tunisia to like Armando's rumba, you can clearly see the evolution of how like the genre moved forward with Chick Corea. Does that make sense? Like, he added on top
Yeah.
of the already like massive foundation that laid before him, and he's like, what can I do with it? And it was so profound. Like, jazz musicians now, like, he's world renowned, you know? So yeah.
He major figure will be missed.
Yeah, will be missed for sure. And other news that matters to me, I guess. That's pretty much it, really. Nothing of substance happened this week for me personally. It's been a lot of the same old teaching, writing music here and there. I guess I should say I've officially started. I think you'd be happy to hear this, Brian. I've officially started writing my rock EP. I already finished the first track to it.
Nice.
Yeah, because everyone, especially you, were like, "There you go, David. Sunday beats. It's nice. When are you writing that rock album, bro?" And I'm happy to say I am now officially in the process of writing it. I got one track down. I'm currently working on the second one, and I got like 2 more ideas. And I'm not gonna make a full album because that just feels daunting. So I decided to do an EP because I feel like I could do that. Like maybe somewhere between 3 and 5 songs. 3 or 5. I don't want to do an even number. That feels weird. So 3 or 5 songs. I for sure have
Lyrics?
3 solid. Yeah, I'm singing on it and everything. Yeah.
Nice. All right, that's what I want to hear.
Well, singing, if you can call what I do singing, but yeah, got that first track. Working on the second one, and then I'll hopefully in between like my commission work, I'll start working on that third and fourth one, and then try to think of a fifth one. But yeah, dude. All right, anything else for me?
I'm excited to hear.
Reading Thrawn. That's been a fun read. That's it. If anything else comes up, I'll just interject you. But that's it for my news of the week. Brian, what about you in your week, and what stuck out to you? What's some stuff you want the listeners to know about?
Malcolm and Marie came out February 5th. I've been looking forward to that movie ever since it got announced last year. Have you heard of it? You're
All right, test.
testing.
There you are.
Looks good.
So far. We'll let the listeners know. It's fine. It's part of the process. And we're back.
Right.
We had some technical difficulties, but I think we're okay. But I'm going to repeat the question. Brian, in your week, what is some news that matters to you?
Malcolm and Marie came out this week on the 5th. It's like 6 days ago or so. At the time of this recording. And I've been looking forward to that. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, it stars I still forget the actor's name. Zendaya and
John David Washington.
David Washington, that's what it is. Yes.
John David Washington, the guy from Tenet, also known as Denzel Washington's son.
Oh, is it for real? Is he really?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my god! Because I was about to say like he's Denzel Washington Jr., but I thought like is
that racist?
Yeah, it's straight up. But he kind of
he actually is.
But real talk, he kind of does have like his swagger and the way he talks and stuff. So
if you listen to him on interviews, he kind of sounds like a younger Denzel Washington. It's same like inflections in his voice and things like that. It's kind of crazy.
Ooh, I liked him in Tenet. How's the movie?
Uh, I liked it. I really liked it.
Mm.
Which is not what a lot of people would say. There's
Mm.
a lot of hate for this movie. um, but so, little history on it. It got announced sometime in the summer, I believe, and it's a two-person cast. So Justin Daya and John David Washington, and it's one of the first uh, films that was actually being produced during the quarantine, right? So they had a very small crew of like 20 people. They rented out a small like house, and like that was their only set, right? So the writer is Sam Levinson, who's Barry Levinson's son. Actually, he wrote the whole film with all that in mind, right? Like it's a quarantine time, you got to be careful. Small crew, basically one setting, and he's worked with Zendaya on Euphoria, right? Which is a hit TV show on HBO. Um, and yeah, so like once I heard all this, like Sam Levinson, Zendaya, John David Washington, one setting, just two people having conversations, or in this case, arguments, right? Like I was all in. Watching the film, I think it's exactly what I expected. Um, it looks it looks amazing. It's shot in black and white. Um, the blocking makes sense for what they're doing. Uh, I think that the camera captures both Zendaya and John David Washington like really well, and both actors are really good. Like obviously, Zendaya has a lot more to do because she has uh, a bigger range of like emotions that she has to hit, right? Where it's like just really like loud over the top, but it's also like really like subtle and sweet and just a little more intimate. Um, and John David Washington, he brings a lot of like neurotic energy to his role, where he's basically playing the role of Sam Levinson, because it's kind of based on Sam Levinson's true story of failing to like thank his wife, who is a producer on his last film, which I haven't seen. But it's called Assassination Nation. But I guess yeah, he forgot to thank her, and that kind of like sparked kind of a marital issue. And so this is kind of loosely based on that, but it's also kind of Sam Levinson's way of like really like voicing out his feelings, for lack of a better word, on like Hollywood and film critics and things like that.
Mm. Is it a love story?
Depends on how you view it.
That little taste of the topic to be discussed at the for the main part of the show. But I've
But
been
yeah,
meaning to
so
catch it, but I don't know, man. It looks depressing, if I'm being honest.
I think you got to be in the right mindset.
That's what I thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird because like it's not to say I can't handle depressing movies. Like I've seen really heavy downer films before, but I don't know, during this time they just seem to hit a lot harder than they did before, if that makes sense. So it's the same reason like I know I'll probably get grief for this. I never bothered to watch Marriage Story. Like I know it's probably a great
Oh.
film, well acted. I know it is. It got so much hype behind it. I was just like, I don't know if I can handle that right now. And like again, Manchester by the Sea, another movie. People are like brilliant acting, great film. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know, man. I'm in this weird stage where I don't know if I can handle really sad stuff, but I need to get around. I just need to make a day, just be like, I'm just gonna be depressed today and watch all these sad, heavy films.
Marriage Story is a good one too. It's I don't know which one's heavier. Hmm. Maybe Marriage Story. Maybe.
And it's ironic I'm saying that. It's ironic I am saying that, and you'll know why in a bit.
Uh-oh. All right, so let's just jump into it then. Today's
Is that it?
topic,
Is that it
yeah,
for your news of the week? I watched
um,
Marriage Story. Let's jump into it. Let's
yeah.
just jump
Let's
into it.
just let's do this.
Today's topic: our top individually, our top 3 love story films. Because guess what's around the corner? Valentine's Day. So of course we had to do the atypical thing and do something themed around love. So we chose movies. So movies with love in it, I guess. Well, okay, that's a broad statement. More like love, quote unquote, is the main overarching theme of the film. So I'll
Not
let
just limited to rom-coms.
yeah, not just limited to rom-coms, which we were considering. Then we thought, let's just make it about love in general. So we did. And I'm gonna let Brian start first with his number 3 top 3 love film stories put to cinematography. I am great with words.
That all makes sense. Yeah, so this was hard. There are a lot of good ones out there. And if you really think about it, like ever since like Harry Met Sally, right, which was what 1986, 1984, I don't somewhere in the 80s, but ever since then, like there's been kind of this formula of like uh boy meets girl, falls in love, and they maybe like start off as like in contention, right? Where they're oh like yeah, he hates her, she hates him, but as they progress through the story, they end up together. And there's like a lot of films like that, right? I can think of like uh Knocked Up, I think is a good one.
Harry Met Sally's a good one. You got mail.
You Got Mail.
Yeah. Um. But
What
yeah,
else I get? Say Anything, maybe I don't know, but basically rom coms have this like formula, and it's always fun to watch. It's a little bit of a I don't want to say it's predictable to watch, but for the most part, they're fun journeys, right? They're fun journeys.
yeah.
Oh, the setup, that's a good one too.
Oh, The Proposal. Sandra
The
Bullock,
Proposal, yeah,
Ryan Reynolds, Just
yeah,
Friends. Another Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds rom com. Mm.
Definitely, maybe another
Mm.
Ryan Reynolds
Mm.
rom com that was also on my
Mm.
short list. I hope none of these are actually on your list.
No.
All right.
My list.
um,
You'll see.
okay.
You'll catch you'll see.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is like it was very difficult for me to choose.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was off top of my head, what really resonated with me the most, like
Mm-hmm.
without doing too much research, like just kind of on gut feeling, right? What movies do I love to think about off the top of my head?
Mm-hmm.
And so number 3 for me was Only the Lonely.
Mm.
It's from 1991, starring John Candy, and it's directed by Christopher Columbus. This is
Mm.
the movie right after Home Alone, right? So it's a little bit different than Home Alone. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different feel to it. But John Candy plays a Chicago police officer who is living with his mother, right, played by Maureen O'Hara, and it's kind of a coming of age story, even though he's like 38 years old in the film. But it's like him learning to break away from his overbearing mother, right,
Mm.
and then kind of pursuing love, things like that.
Oh no.
But I think John Candy's performance alone for it, like it's you always think of John Candy as like a comedic actor, like being like over the top, like really funny. But this one's a little bit different. He's a little bit more like subdued, a little more gentle,
Mm.
um, and you just can't help but root for him, you know. So that's my number 3.
Mm.
Only the Lonely.
Beautiful. I have a very similar film. My number 3 is, speaking of Ryan, my number 3 is
Ryan Phillippe.
La La Land.
Oh.
Because jazz, and that's it. Your number 2, Brian.
Done. We're back. Everything looks good.
I hope.
Does it sound all right?
It sounds alright right now. But yeah, La La Land because of jazz. You're number 2. Repeating the joke. No,
Well,
La
so
La
that's
Land.
surprising based on your past history.
Oh, the movie that ruined my relationship, allegedly.
You're right. Allegedly.
Which is so dumb to blame it on a movie and not all the decisions you've made up to that point. But you know, hindsight afterwards, it's actually a very fantastic film, very well choreographed, made by the same director who directed you know, Whiplash, and eventually he would take Ryan Gosling to also go direct First Man, Damien Chazelle. And it's just, I don't know, man. It's whimsical. The music's amazing. The choreography, the dance numbers in it. Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone have such a great chemistry in it. It's a whimsical film. And then the thing that I love about it too is how it subverts your expectations. And it's like, it's a love story, but it's like, I would say it's more of a common love story in the sense it's like, it just doesn't end well for them because life takes them in separate ways because of their ambitions and what they both want to do, of circumstance, what have you. It's that typical thing of like right place but wrong time, you know, right person but wrong time in this sense, you know. And it's just like, and it's the fact that it's like they don't end it bitterly. It's just like it's not meant to be. And obviously at the end of the film they both end up doing what they love, and they're both happy with where they're at, and they're able to kind of have like that nice closure at the end of the film, you know what I mean? Which is kind of in itself a happy ending in a sense, because not everyone gets to have a nice little bow tie to the end of any relationship that ends, you know. Sometimes you kind of have to make that closure for yourself, but they're fortunate enough to have that closure, that actual closure with each other. So and it's just I really legitimately despite my like history with it and the stupid circumstances surrounding it, I really love that film, and I really love Damien Chazelle legitimately. And the music in it, I can't say enough about the music, man. I mean, I love that he brings jazz to what he does. It's such a wonderful thing, and he's kind of like, through a film audience, kind of like he's rejuvenated people's interests in jazz in some way. You know what I mean? Even though you can argue like it's not really jazz, it's more like musical number, but there's jazz elements in it. There's swing and some stuff in it. So my number 3 legitimately is La La Land.
How do you feel about the whole white splaining controversy?
With like, it's a white guy explaining jazz to a white lady.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but if you notice who they go watch, it's black musicians. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like if you want to see it that way, I understand it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I personally don't see it that way because it's American music. Like yes, there's no denying it. African American culture, black culture, started American music in general, and I mean all of American music, and then like ragtime, swing, to blues, to rock and roll. Like that is black culture. African American culture started that music, right? There's no denying it. They'll always be the originators of the genres. But at the same time, like even Miles Davis had the wherewithal to be like, yo, Bill Evans, this white pianist, he's good. Let's give him a spotlight. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't just, and that's not to say like, I mean, like, you have to have the wherewithal too, and like to notice greatness when it's there. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, not to just keep it to yourself, but to be like, this is for everyone to share and expand on. And like, it's the same reason how like, you know, if I wanted to take that route too, I can get mad and be like, yo, and then they took Latin music because they started putting bossa nova, started playing Latin music and jazz, right? Like I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, Night in Tunisia, and you got Girl from Ipanema and all these jazz standards. Like, yo, they stole my people's rhythm. But no, it's like, it's not that. It's like they expanded upon music, and and combined different things. And you had Latin music, you had jazz music, and then you had Latin jazz, and you have like this beautiful new genre that encompasses like these meshing of cultures, which is like what America is. It's a melting pot of all these cultures. So, I don't know. For me, it's like I didn't see it that way initially. I can understand why people see it that way, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. It's if you wanted to see it that way, that's your prerogative. I didn't see it that way, and if I'm wrong about that, then okay, I'm wrong about that. But
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it that way either. In general, I don't like gatekeeping, right? Like things are
yeah,
for things are for everybody. It's like in terms of like cooking, right? Like who's to say that you can't cook Japanese food, right?
yeah,
It
or
does
you
like it
can't,
doesn't make sense,
or you can't cook Mexican food, which you did. You cooked it
right?
very well. Unfortunately, no one will ever know about that, but you did. But that's what I'm saying too. Imagine if every culture just kept their things all the time, it would never grow because then you never have the influence of like other perspectives. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Even white perspectives. Not to say it's
Right,
always
because
good, but
right, but so like even like if you look at lomo saltado, right?
yeah,
Classically Peruvian dish, like it's the most well-known thing coming out of Peru as far as food. Huge Chinese influence, right? It's basically stir-fried beef and then you just add potatoes. Like that's all it is. And yet it's known as a Peruvian dish, but it comes from something else.
yeah,
And if the Chinese people of immigrated to Peru were like, no, 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 like this is ours, you can't touch it, then we would never have lomo saltado. And then
yeah.
what a shame that would be for the world.
And now we have two things, right? You still have Chinese stir fry. Like the Peruvians didn't steal that and say, "No, that's ours." They're like, "Hey, let's use that to influence our cooking." So now you have Chinese food, traditional stir fry, and now you have Peruvian stir fry. You have this meshing of two cultures, which I think is like that's kind of cool. That's ultimately what we would
It's
want,
delicious,
right?
is what that is. Yeah.
But wait, but this is what ultimately we want. It's like cultures not just getting along, but mixing together, influencing each other, creating something else, creating something beautiful, whether it's in the food, the art, conversation, babies, whatever. You know what I mean? So yeah, I understand. I understand it. I understand it. Don't necessarily know if I agree with it, if I'm being
Hmm.
honest. So that being said, I get it. Because if I'm also being honest too, like, yeah, how many jazz movies about jazz actually have, black people in it talking about jazz? So I get it. And that's something that's also like a little bit problematic about Hollywood. But at the same time, like those movies do exist. Yeah, you got to go look for them. They're not prominently featured like a La La Land, for example. But those movies about jazz and like actual like jazz musicians and like black African American black musicians in it. Those movies do exist. Like I know Don Cheadle did a movie about Miles Davis that's out there that people say is really good. And obviously, Ray Charles film, which is a great film that came out a long time ago, exists too. Like and that movie arguably was like a huge hit too. So it exists.
Jamie Foxx, classically trained musician,
Yep.
went to San Diego State University.
And he's great in it. He mimics
Yeah,
Ray so well. It's surprisingly well in
it's
that
a little
film.
bit scary. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and you can make the argument. Well, Ray's not really a jazz musician. He has jazz influences in it. He strictly jazz, meh, but he had jazz in it. So, anyways, number 3, La La
Two.
Land for me.
Oh, sorry. My number 2. um, shoot. Now, because you included La La Land, now I'm like, shoot, do I have to remake my list to include one of my favorite films?
Did you put La La Land in your film?
No, no, I didn't. But it kind of shifts my thinking a little bit.
I have a specific theme to my list, and you're probably gonna catch on when I say my number 2. You're probably thinking jazz, maybe.
No, I'm just gonna keep my list, and then if you don't include my favorite movie in your list, then we'll talk about it afterwards.
I probably don't. I
We'll
probably
see.
don't.
All right, so my number two is Only You.
Mm.
It's from 1994, starring Robert Downey Jr. and Marissa Tomei.
Mm.
Yes.
Whoops. Wrong button. How do I undo this? My bad.
I mean, if that's okay, so Only You, Robert Downey Jr., Marissa Tomei. It's from 1994, and it's Marissa Tomei's character as a little girl. She's playing the Ouija board, and she asks, as like any child of like that era would ask, what's the name of the guy I'm gonna marry? And her brother, like obviously he's the one moving the Ouija board piece. They come up with the name Damon Bradley. She goes, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna marry this guy, Damon Bradley." Right, fast forward several years, she's like in middle school or whatever. She goes to a fortune teller at a fair. Same question: who am I gonna marry? And the fortune teller says, "I'm seeing a name, Damon Bradley." And she goes, "Holy shit! Like, how does this fortune teller know?" But then they reveal that obviously the brother paid the fortune teller to say that name. Jump forward, many many years. She's an adult. She's getting married to this doctor. Um, she is getting ready for some I think like a wedding like dress fitting or whatever. She gets a phone call from her fiance's schoolmate. He's like, "Oh, like I'm sorry. I just wanted to let you know I can't come to the wedding. I have to go on this emergency trip to Italy." And she says, "Okay, yeah, what's your name?" And he says, "Damon Bradley." And so now she's like, "Holy shit, I haven't heard that name in a long time." And so she drops everything and flies to Italy to find this guy, Damon Bradley. And then she meets Robert Downey Jr. there, who says his name is Damon Bradley. Turns out it's not. His name is Peter. But it's this whole thing of like, to me at least, what I took from it, it's this idea of fate versus like the future that you forge for yourself, right? Choices that you make. Is your life predetermined, or can you make different choices for yourself? So it's a little bit looking back at it, that's a little bit creepy what Robert Downey Jr. does in the film
Uh,
in terms of like he like
besides
meets
being besides being deceptive and slightly problematic, yes.
yes. But yeah, so it's like he basically lies to this girl to get in her pants, right? But despite all that, I think it's a nice little film. It's fun and it's at times very cute. Um, and I watch at least once a year.
Mm. Well, I learned something about you today.
But I am a
So that's
creep. Done.
yes, that you love
Yes.
creepy films. Your number two only. Okay. All right. For my number two, I'm torn between two films currently because I have a list here, and they're slightly in my theme.
Whiplash.
That's a love story. When love goes too far. Oh man. Well, I already mentioned Ryan Gosling, so I probably won't choose that one. All right, I'm gonna go with A Star Is Born with Lady
Oh,
Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Um, I've never seen the previous 2 to 3
renditions.
renditions of it prior to it. This was my first like real viewing of said story, and I caught an early screening of it. It was like a special access by AMC, and I'll never forget it because I was like, the theater was full. It was packed actually, and I was like maybe like
What a
one
time.
of one of 3 guys there, like males, and everyone else was female. And I was there crying at all the same spots they were. I was so moved, so touched, so heartbroken by that film. And by the end of it, I was a blubbering mess. I literally had to sit through the credits to like calm myself down because I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" Like the movie's so brilliantly acted. It's so good. Lady Gaga is obviously the surprise standout of the film, but man, Bradley Cooper directed and acted in that film so brilliantly. The story behind all of it, like, take away the fact that it's like the whole like his stardom is falling, her stardom is rising, right? And he also has like internal problems that he has to deal with. It's like the struggle too of like trying to make a relationship work when obviously one person needs someone else more than the other. You know what I mean? Like clearly Bradley Cooper needs Lady Gaga's character more than vice versa. Not to say that she doesn't need or love him, but it's very clear like Bradley Cooper's like he needs help. You know what I mean? And like and just the fact too that it's like like they love each other, yeah, but that love wasn't enough to save him at the end of it. You know what I mean? It's so tragic and sad in that sense, in that theme of like sometimes, yeah, sometimes people make their own decisions and just loving them isn't enough. They gotta also love themselves, right? To keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you know, it has had so much acclaim, critically successful, box office hit. Um, yeah, I love
Thinking
that
so.
film. Yeah, it had Dave Chappelle in it, dude.
Oh, that was a nice surprise.
That was a nice cap. It was a nice. I remember saying like, "Oh, he's in this!" like out loud in the theater, and it wasn't even. And the thing that I loved about it, it wasn't a comedic role. Like he sincerely acted in it. It was like a real sincere like person. Like it was wonderful seeing him and stretch himself in that sense. So, and everyone else in the film too, man. Everyone's so brilliant in it. So, my number two, tragic love story. Are you catching the theme now?
I sure
Is
am.
This is A Star Is Born. Hey
Oh,
man.
that is a good one.
Oh man, I'm
Yeah.
debating my number one right now because you know it has to be a real depressing film now.
I mean, you're just ramping it up like little by little. It's a nice crescendo of depression, right?
Yeah, right. So there, my number one has two contenders right now, and they're battling out in my head.
Mm.
We'll see what I pick when we get there. But Brian, what is your number two? No, your
What?
number one.
My
Your
number
number
one.
one. Here it is, our top number ones, starting with Mr. Speaks number one love story movie film.
This is. If I could go back and redo this list, I think I would. Kind of understanding like where you're coming from, because it just
I
really it broadens like the choices that it could have had, right? Um, but
hey,
ultimately,
I'm here to expand your mind, brother. Open
yes.
your mind.
But ultimately, we're talking about love stories, and to me, like that ultimate love story is The Princess Bride. Which
Nice.
I mean, right up
Right
here,
there.
right?
Right there, boys
Yeah,
and girls. It's up
I
there for a reason.
absolutely I love The Princess Bride. It's directed by Rob Reiner, based on the book by William Goldman. Which I mean, huh? Look at that! It is everywhere. It is huge influence on my life. Um, it's Carrie Elwes, Robin Wright. This is Robin Wright's first role. This is where she quote unquote gets discovered. Um, and it's awesome. Like it's got fencing, fighting, torture, revenge. What else? Giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, and miracles. It's got everything you could ask for. It's Andre the Giant, right? Sean Wallace is really great as Vicini. So many good quotes from this movie, right? What else? No more rhyming. I mean it. Anybody want to be in it? It's inconceivable. All this stuff. Best line, I think, right? In terms of like, if you're talking about love, when Wesley meets Buttercup again, and she says, "Oh, I thought you were dead," and he says, Not even death can stop true love. And it's like it's cheesy, but I love it.
The exact opposite of mine. I
Yeah.
love it. It's exactly what I wanted.
Oh man. Princess Bride. I also watch that at least once a year.
That's sweet. I have yet to see that film. Moving on to
What?
my number one. I
Hold on, hold on,
know.
hold on. You have never seen The
Nope.
Princess Bride.
Nope.
Oh man. It's
I
on
just
Disney
never.
Plus.
Is it?
It is.
I gotta get on it. Man, there's so
Please
many
do.
films I gotta get on. So much stuff. But yeah, lovely number one. Shit. How depressing do I want to go with this?
You might as well go all in.
All undepressing?
Oh yeah.
Because there's
It's a
one.
crescendo.
Because if I'm being honest, the two films I have, I clearly love one film more than the other. But the other one that I love less really like crescendos the end of my list. I don't want to be a huge downer though. Fuck it.
Marriage
I'm gonna
Story.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. No, I think I'm gonna choose the one I love more because like not to say that the previous two films I don't love. I love them. Like I own them on Blu-ray and I've watched them several times. Like I love those films legitimately. This film, I remember watching it when it recently came out on DVD and being blown away by it, not fully comprehending the messages behind it. And then as I've watched it more and more as I've gotten older, it's like the themes of everything behind it, how, if you forget, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it, is like one of the main themes of this film. But also like the story of like, hey, sometimes like, yeah, love doesn't work out and you have to remember those pains to remember why it didn't work out so that you can move on, have that closure, right? But also hopefully make better choices next time. And that movie for me is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet. Yeah, it's just, I mean, what everyone knows this film, right? And if you don't, seriously go watch it. It's a very unique take on like relationships and love loss and heartbreak and what are you honestly willing to do to kind of forget that heartbreak, and is it honestly worth it to forget that heartache? Like, should you actually go out of your way to forget it? Is that actually healthy for you? And I love the film, man. It's an amazing, like, because especially for me, up to the point where I saw this film, I just known Jim Carrey as like a comedic actor, right? Like I saw Truman Show, didn't really enjoy it. I think I was too young for it when I saw it. Majestic was like okay, but this movie, I saw this movie and I was like, holy shit, wow! Like I didn't know he had that in him, and like it's a very somber performance. It does have some comedic timing in it when they're chasing him through his memories and stuff like that, and he's going through like when he was a kid, when he got caught, by his mom doing the deed. But it's also like a very sweet film because you get glimpses into the relationship and how like there was affection and love there, but ultimately it just didn't work out. And then like how they're willing to try again just because they don't remember why it ended. You know what I mean? Like they know it ended, but they don't know why. But they're like, we have to try it out. Like we have to remember. And if like we've been giving a second chance, and if it doesn't work, well, it doesn't work, and that's fine. We won't make the same mistakes again. So, yeah, man, my number one for my list, because it's more of an optimistic view. Like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but ultimately it's always for the better of your growth as a human being. Is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. You want to know what I was fighting it with? You want to take a guess?
Yeah, go ahead.
I tell you the film ends with the marriage ending, but it's not Marriage Story.
Before Midnight.
No.
With
One of the films I chose stars, the actor that stars in that film stars in this film too. My honorable mention for my number one spot.
we're talking about Ethan Hawke, right? Or are we talking about Jim Carrey?
What?
What? Is it the actor that stars in the previous?
One of my previous films, not the previous film. One of
your previous films.
Yeah.
So you picked. Let's recap. Number 3.
La La Land.
Number 2.
A Star Is Born.
And then number 1.
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Honorable mention.
Cra-
You ready?
Crazy Stupid Love.
No, that would have been funny if I did choose that though. That's a fine film though. That's a
I
fine film.
love
If that's
Crazy
your number
Stupid
one.
Love.
Yeah, that's a fine film.
Yeah, Ryan
No, my
Gosling and Emma Stone.
yeah. They have great chemistry. No, the honorable mention for my number one was Blue Valentine.
Oh, that one's so heavy.
I know. I did it. I almost chose it one as a troll. I'm not gonna lie. My list is kind of
Yeah.
trolly. But at the same time too, it is a good film. Like the acting in it is really good. It's a heavy film though. It's depressing because you're always cutting back and forth between like when their love was blossoming and beginning and it's so sweet and he's playing ukulele for her and it's like very like tender, and then you're at the end of it where
That
it
was
just
I actually really love that scene.
yeah, it's so sweet, and then like interjected with like they just can't make it work anymore. The passion's gone, the love is gone. They don't know each other. Like the intricacies they loved before, they hate now, and it ends with them just like quitting. Like that's it. I'm done. I'm leaving. But ultimately, I am slight optimist at heart. So I think Eternal Sunshine kind of depicts that. So
Nice. Very nice. That would have been that would have blown the roof right off, off this
would
podcast.
it would have been too much.
Yeah.
I almost wish I did do it.
Valentine's special talking about Blue Valentine.
Blue Valentine. A part of me kind of wishes I did, but I was like, I don't want to take it that far. And who would take me seriously if I did do that?
Yeah. So the one movie I wanted to include in my list after like I saw what you were doing was 500 Days of Summer.
I was almost gonna add that too, but that felt so cliche of me to do.
But that
I'm not gonna lie.
I love that film. It's
That film
if
is
you want
really
to call it
good.
a love story, it's more like a self-love story. Like he kind of learns to dig deeper into himself and become the kind of person that he wants to be, as opposed to the kind of person he thinks he needs to be for somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also too. It is a selfish story too, because he is kind of like
He's
and
kind of a
he-
dick, for sure.
He's kind of a dick, and like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and like all of them have done numerous upon numerous interviews about the film that you can just go YouTube. But like, yeah, he's kind of an asshole in the film because he's thinking selfishly. It's all about what he wants, what he thinks he wants, rather than what
Yeah.
he truly needs. And ultimately, if he really did love her, what does she need? Ultimately, legitimately, and it's not you, bud. So. So
Yeah.
I almost chose it, but I was like, everyone says that it is a great film, but I'm not. I want mine to be just a tinge more depressing, and I think I accomplished that.
Oh yeah, you really just like stuck it in the heart and twisted it.
You're making me really wish I did go. You know what? You know what, Brian? Blue Valentine's my number one. Fuck.
What a love story.
What do you hate? Love or Romeo plus Juliet, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. Ultimately, you do find your true love, and then you die. Brian, where could it be?
Do you have any other honorable mentions, like other love stories that didn't quite make your list?
Sticking with my theme.
If you want, sure.
Yeah, Romeo plus Juliet was legitimately a consideration.
That's a great version of Romeo and Juliet, by the way. Baz Luhrmann's
It's balls to the wall
aesthetic,
crazy.
his
Yeah.
aesthetic is like crazy.
Yeah, it was my introduction to Shakespeare as like a young lad.
I think a lot of people of our generation probably learned Shakespeare
was-
through that movie. Yeah.
That movie for me legitimately made me go, I gotta read this Shakespeare. Like, holy shit. I was also thinking A Walk to Remember, Mandy Moore, and I forget the guy's name. I just remember Mandy Moore.
Shane West.
Shane West, thank you.
Yeah,
'Cause
he's got some really ugly teeth.
Because it is like a beautiful love story, but it's really sad too. Because it's kind of
Also,
like
yeah.
doomed to end. You know what I mean? If I was taking it into a trolley aspect, I was almost considering saying like Batman Begins, and you being like, "How is that a love story?" And I was like, "Dude, Bruce Wayne's trying to is trying to impress Rachel the whole time. That's the whole reason he becomes Batman. Rachel.
And if you want to take that into The Dark Knight, then it becomes real depressing because
Yeah.
she dies.
'Cause
Spoilers, she dies.
No, but Batman Dark Knight, it's also a love story. It's the Joker trying to impress Batman.
Oh.
See, it's a twisted love story, but it's a love story.
Batman completes Joker.
Joker completes Batman.
Also true.
Brian, this has been our top 3. All right, real quick. I do want to do this before we end. Off the top of your head, no explanation. Are you ready? It has to be in the moment. You can't think about it too long. Top 3 rom-coms. Go.
She's All That. She's the Man. Yeah, I guess that's a rom-com. And Definitely Maybe. Yeah.
Notting Hill.
Oh, good one.
10 Things I Hate About You.
Good one.
And yeah, Love Actually.
Love Actually.
Yeah.
I remember you hating this movie. No, not like you hated it, but it just didn't make your...
I didn't hate it. I liked it.
Did you? I remember you didn't vote for it, I think.
Did I not? I'll have to go revisit that. I like it. I don't think it was... I know someone else in it hated it.
That is
or
so
just
true.
didn't... Or a couple of people haven't seen it when we did that one.
Yeah. Maybe I am confusing, like... It was Janine, right? Janine hated it?
I think she did, yeah.
I'm confusing her thoughts with your thoughts.
I mean, if I did hate it, Brian, I'm allowed to change. I'm an ever-evolving human being.
That is true. You know, if
All right.
Blue Valentine teaches anything, it's that people can change. Some for the worse, some for the better.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you go. That's the theme of my love list. People change, sometimes for not the better. Okay.
Yes.
All right, that has been an episode. We should put it our top 3 love stories with technical difficulties.
Yes.
Brian, where can the good people find you?
On Instagram at Kuno_stars.
Yes,
and David, where can the good people find you?
You can find me at DavidPMusic21 on both Twitter and Instagram, and you can find this podcast at Speak Freely Pod on Twitter and Instagram. If you haven't yet and you're watching this on YouTube, first of all, thank you. We love you so much. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Click that subscribe. Click that notification bell so you know when we drop these hot, lovely, heartfelt, steamy, lustful 50 Shades of Grey episodes every week to you. Hit that thumbs up button or a thumbs down if you don't like it. What would be your top 3 love stories? Leave it in the comments section down below.
Is it Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire?
Is that a love story?
It has the most love in it, I think.
Probably, right? Spider-Man 1. Dude, what's more iconic than an upside-down kiss with Kate Winslet? Wait, is that her name, right?
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst, yeah. Kate Winslet.
Yeah.
I was still thinking of Eternal Sunshine and Spotless Mind.
It's still on your mind, yeah.
It's still on my mind. My number 1 for a reason. I didn't go full depressing. Speaking of which, I'm shocked you didn't, because you asked me earlier to pull behind the curtain real quick before we end it. You asked me about, is Titanic a love story? And I was like, yeah.
It is. Yeah, but I think I chose it as like a way to think of like outside of rom-coms.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's fair. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an episode. We are Speak Freely. Please go listen to my album. Everywhere you stream music. David B Music. All the good stuff. We'll see you next week. Let's see if I can. 1, 2. We just have to be in person to do that, I guess.
I think that might have been the best, though.
It was close.
Yeah.
And